Okay, how's everybody doing this afternoon, not this evening? Because I'm actually shooting a video during the daylight. I was getting a little bit tired of that street at night, especially when it wasn't anybody there, so I thought I'd start doing daylight videos. I'm going to give you a quick view of my surroundings. And hopefully this won't be too loud because I'm right along what they call Carlsbad Boulevard, but it's actually the 101. So, and here's the ocean if you can't see it from here. Actually, there's quite a few surfers out. I'll get over a little closer to the ocean so you can see it. So, if you want to know where I'm at, I'm in Carlsbad, California. That's where I live. That's where I shoot all my videos from. And it's been pretty much closed down lately, but I think a lot of people are starting to come out. A lot more people are starting to come out. Here's the beach. They've opened up the beaches. Been a lot of surfing, a lot of people out. So, but what I want to talk about first of all, I want to talk a little bit about this channel. You know, I built this channel, or I started this channel about the time EOS didn't launch, but when EOS was raising money. And I wanted to start the channel about EOS because we were really excited about it, and I wanted to make videos about the EOS blockchain, the EOS blockchain. But I knew it was built around EOS, and I knew that the channel wouldn't grow if EOS didn't prosper, EOS didn't continue to go up in value. And it did. I think EOS went up over $20, and I picked up quite a few subscribers. But since EOS has kind of been less than it should be, I think it's about half of where it should be. Basically, they raised $4 billion, and there's about a little over $2 billion in market cap right now. So as long as EOS is staying down relatively low, less than what the money they raised, I knew this channel would probably not grow, but I'm hoping that it starts to grow. And if you watch the videos, I wish you would subscribe. I hope you subscribe. And of course, do the other things, like and comment, because I'd like to see the channel grow, especially as the market starts to go up, I think that the market will go up. The overall crypto market will go up. In fact, I don't only think it will go up, I think it has to go up. And I'll give some reasons why. One of the interesting things I noticed that since the COVID virus, less people have come up and try to get in my videos. You know, when I was down along the street late at night, a lot of people would come into my videos, but since the COVID virus, everybody's been a little bit more scared to talk to one another, so I have a lot less people coming up and talking to me. So that's another reason why I'm able to come out like during daylight with a lot of people around and shoot a video without much interruption. So I actually think COVID and the whole virus pandemic that we're going through has been a very decentralizing effect on our economy and the way we think about the world, because so many centralized systems have been interrupted by COVID. Our food chains have been interrupted. The way we buy our food, the way we buy stuff from department stores and malls and all this stuff has all been interrupted by COVID. So I think people are realizing and starting to sense that centralized systems are very vulnerable to things like what's going on with COVID. And I think people are starting to reevaluate the world. And I think that benefits cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Not to mention the fact that we have a tremendous amount of background going on now with the way that governments around the world are dealing with the COVID virus by stimulus, adding money to the system to try to keep things propped up so things don't really fall apart. And as that starts to happen, I think people are thinking of two ways of dealing with it. One way is to hedge by buying precious metals. The other way is to start to get involved with cryptocurrencies. And I'm going to tell you why I don't believe in hedging with the metals. Everybody seems to put them on the same level. You know, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, or gold, or silver, or something like that. And and I've talked about this before on my channel, but as long as people are able to short gold and silver or any precious metal with paper money, fiat currency, they will always struggle. They will always struggle to be an equilibrium between how much inflation there is and how much stimulus there is, and the actual value of a solid money, which is gold or silver or Bitcoin. The only one that can really truly reflect the stimulus and all the quantitative easing is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can't be shorted. Well, it can be shorted, but as you can see here in the last couple of days, anybody who's shorting Bitcoin is really they're very vulnerable because of the swings Bitcoin takes. So Bitcoin is very understood. We know exactly how many Bitcoin they are. We can see it on the open ledger, the blockchain. We know how many will be mined. We know how many there are totally. So it's if you're shorting Bitcoin, you're really in a very vulnerable situation because, as you can see, it was over 10,000. Now it's back to 8,000. Could be over 9,000. Could be up to 12,000. So if you're playing these shorts, you could get caught very quickly. And I don't think people are the really wise, intelligent investors are willing to spend a lot or wager a lot shorting Bitcoin because it is so understood and so transparent versus something like gold, which we don't know how much gold there is in the world. Traders could start shorting gold, and as they did oil. I mean, look at oil. What happened to oil? Went into the negative. The reason oil went into the negative is because there were so many shorts. And when the shorts realized they had to cover their contracts, they had to dump. And of course, when they had to dump, that literally drove the price into the negative. Well, the same thing could happen, not that it could, but it can happen with a commodity like gold, because gold could get shorted. And even though we have all this quantitative easing and gold is real money, and as it goes up, and they short it, and they short it, and they short it, nobody really knows the total supply of gold, and nobody knows who has what as far as gold's concerned. It's not something that can be transparent as Bitcoin. So really, to me, the only hedge against inflation and against quantitative easing is Bitcoin. And of course, I think Bitcoin really leads to other cryptocurrencies like EOS, Ethereum, and all the others. But I really see cryptocurrencies in two categories. I see cryptocurrency as Bitcoin, which is what Bitcoin is. And Bitcoin is a protocol that is proof of work, which means there's energy spent in block producers or miners to develop the chain and keep the chain running. So there's energy, there's real world effort spent in doing that. And that's why Bitcoin's unique and special. And that's why it's highly secure, because of the fact it is so decentralized with all the different people. Even though the miners are somewhat centralized in certain places, in certain mining operations, they are still decentralized by the fact that they are removed from the process of the contents of the block. They are just trying to make Bitcoin by solving an equation or solving a problem or competing for the right to build or make the next block. So they were completely. So that's why they make a great third party. And now you have EOS, and of course EOS is Dan Larimer's idea of proof of stake. That's the other part of cryptocurrency, the proof of work, proof of stake. And that's really the magic behind cryptocurrencies, is this independent third party that isn't centralized and isn't controlled. And the two ways that happens is through proof of work or proof of stake. All the other blockchains are some variation of these two. And of course, there's a myriad of them. I don't know how many they are, and I don't even know all the ideas of how the different blockchains choose the way the blocks are made and how centralized or decentralized they are. People will call EOS centralized. I don't believe it is, because there's not a better system for having block producers than the EOS system, which is the people who actually own the token have a right to vote for the block producer. And of course, I hear now that Block 1 is going to start voting for block producers too. So as Block 1 votes for block producers, it now has an interest in making sure the chain stays decentralized and is as independent as possible. And I think that's their main goal. Block 1 is to keep the chain as honest as possible. And I think that they're starting to be involved with that now too. So that makes it even more valuable. So I think that the EOS blockchain has a real future in this new economy, this new world, this new thing that people are looking for. They're looking for some honesty and integrity in the way things are run. And I think this is going to be something very interesting. Back to the block producers and back to Bitcoin and the way Bitcoin is run. Of course, Bitcoin is run by energy, because it takes energy to run the ASICs computers that end up solving the algorithm, solving the problems. that give the block producers the ability to make the blocks. And the best way to have the electrical grid operate is on a decentralized way. So I'm thinking if you could put the grid on a decentralized system, not a centralized system. Like here, I'm in San Diego, we got SDG&E. They have other power systems throughout the country and throughout the United States. Those are all centralized. And I always thought it was interesting because a lot of people talk about solar, putting solar on their house. But if you think about it, if you know anything about solar, and of course I had a neighbor that had solar, and I thought, wow, whenever power goes down, he's going to still have power because he's got his own solar on top of his roof. And then he told me, no, his solar is actually hooked into the power grid, so when the power goes down, he loses power just like everybody else. And I thought, well, what's the use of having solar? Because he's just actually really dependent on the power grid just like everybody else, even though he's got his own solar system. So that's not really the best system in the world. But if you had a system where you had the power being stored someplace, and then have a user interface so that you could understand your power situation, how much power you were making, how much power that you were using, and then be able to utilize that power system or utilize that power and put it on a blockchain so it could be decentralized so other people could utilize it. That's a perfect use case for the blockchain and decentralizing something that's centralized. So I think those are the kind of uses that you're going to see in the future, and kind of applications that are going to be built on the EOS blockchain. Decentralized power systems and decentralized supply chains, decentralized about anything you can really think of. And that's the way the blockchain will evolve in the future, to be able to help people to get out of this world where we're so dependent on third parties, so dependent on banks, so dependent on power companies and the power grid and all this other stuff. And that's one of the things you got to worry about in a time like this. I mean, how safe is our power grid in a time of COVID and all the different things that are going on? So, I think this is the way the future is going to be. I think that, of course, EOS is one of the main players, and of course, EOS has one of the best systems, because even though EOS has a system that they call decentralized, or centralized more or less, than Bitcoin, and it probably is a little more centralized than Bitcoin. If you look at block producers versus proof of work, independent people, or independent miners that are building the blocks. But you still have, with the block producers being in place where they are, you still have the ability to make things faster. And making it faster means it can handle more things. I don't ever think Bitcoin is meant to be fast, even though everybody keeps trying to make it faster and faster, coming up with ideas to make it faster. I think Bitcoin sacrificed speed to be secure. And I think that's a good thing, that it should be secure. And I think that sacrificing speed for security was probably a good trade-off. And that's what the intention of Bitcoin was to be, is to be secure. So I think that's the way it is, and I think EOS will run all this other stuff, like perhaps in the future, the power grid system and the supply chain for food, among other things that the blockchain can do, as well as what we're doing with being able to airdrop cryptocurrency on cities. And that's what we're doing right now. We are airdropping cryptocurrencies on certain cities. And you can check out our Telegram to see which cities. I think I've mentioned some of them before. So, and actually, if you'd like to have a city that you're in get an airdrop from us, just let us know, and we'd be happy to airdrop on your city or your area that you'd like to see get crypto. And the way that works is when we airdrop, it's almost like beaming down crypto from a certain area. So if we're airdropping into San Diego, California, which I think we're going to do here in the next couple of days, if you have our app on your device and we beam, or we give that city a geographic location tokens, as long as you're within a certain distance of the city of San Diego, you'll get these tokens. I think it's 10 kilometers, I'm not sure. But as long as you're within that geographic location, you're going to get that. And that's what we do. I mean, that's a decentralized way of giving out crypto to people that we want to around the world, by people that support the challenge application. And the cities that we have been doing that with are cities that we have a lot of activity, a lot of people downloading the application. As well as the fact that we have, I think now, over 1,000 people on our Telegram. I think we probably have well over 1,000 people that are using the application right now. So it is growing even in this time of poor prices and still feeling the effects and not really feeling the full effect of the bull run that we're ready to go through. So let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, and I see gold more as a utility. I mean, people always do this thing where gold has been around for 5,000 years. Well, that's a good, it's a good argument. Gold has been the stable money for 5,000 years. Everybody's recognized gold for 5,000 years. But I still see gold more as a utility. Gold is a valuable metal that's used in a lot of things. For instance, I was hearing that silver is even used in solar panels. But gold's used for so many things in industry and so forth. But I think gold is more or less a utility, less than a hedge for inflation. So I see gold more as a utility. I mean, iron's been around for 5,000 years too. 5,000 years, but we don't use iron as money. But just the fact it's been around so long doesn't mean that it means it's good money or good head against inflation. Plus the other thing too is so many people, and of course I think everybody is in this boat, where they've been chasing dollars all their life. I mean, every time you think you're getting ahead in the world, you're actually getting behind because your money gets worth less. So as you make more money at your job, you pay more taxes, you really feel like you're not getting ahead because every year there's more money put into the system, just like there is this year. And there's a massive amount of money put into the system. So you're really going to get behind this year, even if you're making more money. Even like a company like Amazon is probably one of the most successful companies right now going. Even this year, if their revenues are up, how do you really measure their revenues going higher when the value of the money, the currency that you're using to measure that increased revenue, is actually depreciated and gone down in value? So you really don't know where you're at because you really haven't felt the full effect of the devaluation of money. So if Amazon doubles their revenues or triples their revenues, is it really a double or triple if you're measuring it in dollars? So you really never know where you're at. So that's why you've got to stop chasing dollars and start to build a foundation in something that's hard money, like Bitcoin, that doesn't depreciate and doesn't lose value. Sure, it fluctuates in price like it did today, but the overall trend, the macro, the big picture is that it's going higher simply because it's limited, and it's proven and it's tested, and it still has not had anything happen to it. I mean, it still works. So if it works and it's used as money, and it is going to be used as money, used for money every day, you know that the value is going to go up because it's fixed. It's 21 million, and we know every Bitcoin out there, so we know everything about it. And even if people do short it, eventually they're going to get caught because I think the pressures are higher, and with the fluctuations, anybody shorting Bitcoin with these fluctuations has really got to have really playing with Russian roulette as far as I'm concerned. I'll let this helicopter go past. So anyway, that's what I was going to say. Basically that people should stop chasing dollars. I think that's been something everybody's been kind of having to deal with for most of their lives, especially during my lifetime. Is since 1971, taking off the gold standard, money has continued to depreciate. What used to be worth $1 million isn't worth $1 million anymore. People used to literally think if they had $1 million, they were set for life. Well, now if you have $1 million, you can barely buy a home here in Southern California. In fact, like in the area that I'm at right now, you wouldn't even come close with $1 million to buy a home. You'd probably buy a small condo. At one time, $1 million, you could probably come down here and buy, oceanfront property, probably for 2 or 3 or 4 lots down the road with $1 million, and still have plenty of money left over. It's not the case anymore. It's only because the money is elastic and it's been able to increase in value, or it's been able to increase in supply to the point where it's pretty valueless, and people just continue to chase dollars. And that's why so many people feel so insecure about the future, is because it's in dollars. If you want to feel more secure about your future, move it over to something in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, and I think you're going to feel like over the long haul you'll do a lot better. That's my opinion, but I think that's probably going to be well proven out, because of the simple fact that that's the only way it can happen if we aren't living in a fixed or rigged economy. that the Bitcoin and things like that have got to go up. The true hard money, the hardest money in the world. And that's not me speaking. That's a lot of other people, including economists. Of course, we all know Paul Tudor Jones and his saying this is the fastest horse in the race, and probably felt like of all things this would be the thing that rises the fastest is Bitcoin. And if he feels that, and he's been playing the market since the mid 80s and has been very successful at it, I think that's the way to go, regardless of what Warren Buffett says. I think Warren Buffett's been behind in technology. In fact, for a number of years he didn't want to invest in any technology. Now he's even given up, and of course has a lot of big position in Apple. So don't believe Warren Buffett, believe Paul Tudor Jones, and believe that Bitcoin's the hardest money out there. And if you want to quit chasing dollars and start to have a little more security in the future, start thinking about putting some money in Bitcoin. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.